Hey guys, Chris from the Ultimate Recycler. Another wintry day in the shed, and I have another little project to do. This Panasonic VCR came into the shop the other day. A guy dropped it off kind of as e-waste, but he did hint that if I could fix it, he might buy it back. So does that mean it's a repair job, or can I put whatever price I want on it when it's fixed? It's a good quality Panasonic VCR, I think. I did a quick search on the model number, and online they seem to sell for $100 plus if they work, and importantly if they have the remote. This one does. It's a big clunky remote. It actually opens like a book, and you have all your controls in there. It appears to be quite clean, and importantly it's clean where the batteries go. There's no batteries in it, but there's no corrosion. So I'm going to see if I can fix it. I'm going to test my diagnosis and repair capabilities on VCRs, being relatively inexperienced, but I have had a few successful repair jobs. The symptoms are, he did test it just the other day before he brought it in. He said he puts a cassette in, he pushes it in, it sometimes just ejects itself straight away. Sometimes when he tries to fast forward or rewind, it stops by itself and then ejects. And so it's doing some weird things. And I told him, I think it's likely to be the mode switch. The mode switches in these do get dirty if they don't connect properly at the right time. It basically tells the machine what parts to turn on and turn off, and it's almost like the machine's confused if the mode switches are dirty. So I'm thinking that's probably it. I'm going to pull it apart and see if I can fix it. I'll keep track of my time, and if he wants to buy it back, I'll work out a figure. We'll let you know at the end of this video. Or if it doesn't work, there's no pressure, because he said if you can't fix it, scrap it. So it will just go to e-waste, or I'll salvage what I can out of it. But let's see if we can actually keep this thing alive. A little bit of a closer look before I start. It's Japanese made. It looks to be in pretty good physical cosmetic condition. A bit dusty on the top, but that's okay. I don't know if he's left a cassette in there. No, it doesn't look like it, but I've got some here. So perhaps we'll try it first and see exactly what it's doing. A quick look at the back first. It has two lots of AV sockets, one input and one output. The RF in and the RF out. And there's the details. The model number is NV-HD600 Mark IIA, or MK2A. So Japanese made. I guess it dates to the 1990s or so, and it probably would have been a pretty expensive one in its day. And now I've just got my little TIAC test TV up on board here. We've got the AV cables plugged into the output of the VCR. And the TV is on the AV input. So if we power up the video through my appliance tester and turn it on, nothing. What's going on? Okay, it is on. There's very faint flashing zeros there. And it says AV on there, I think. But the TV is not recognising anything. I'm not sure why. Let's put a video in there and it might wake it up. Okay, my favourite Vicar of Dibley test video. Let's see what happens here. Okay, it takes it in. I'm hearing some noises. Still not showing anything on the TV. And it ejects the video straight away. Alright, that's one of the symptoms he said. I don't know why the TV's not registering it. Let's press play. It says play on the display there. But it's kicking the video straight back out. So there's our fault. Interesting that it's not registering anything on the TV. I think I have the right setting on input. It's on AV. Well, regardless of the fact that whether we had any life on the TV or not, the VCR wasn't playing the tape. Now, for those wondering, the cassette was halfway through, so there should be no reason why it shouldn't play, and we weren't getting it to do that. So there's definitely an issue. So we've got two screws each side. Now there's no screws at the back, so the cover will come off. And it's chock full of goodies. So we need to get into the actual video playing area there will be a mode switch. I haven't done one of this model before, so I'm not sure where it is, but it's probably on the circuit board underneath, or it will connect somehow to the circuit board underneath. So we're going to need to take the mechanical section out. Usually it's not too complicated. I think we might need to take the front panel off for a start. So there's clips each end and a clip in the middle where I just took that screw from. There might be some screws underneath too. And there's clips underneath as well. So it looks like there's only one screw and lots of clips. I don't really want to break the clips, so let's be gentle. Okay, that's getting there. So all the bottom clips off. And I think just this one at the top now. There we go. Oh, there we go, front panel removed. Hope we're still in shot there. So this whole assembly should come out fairly easy. We have some screws under here, and then there's a couple of big screws at the back. And all the wiring will unplug. So it's not really as complicated as it probably initially looks. Just a matter of finding exactly what screws to remove. Now I could have done this first and then put it back together and then filmed me undoing it to look like I knew what I was doing, but that wouldn't be fair, would it? Right, this big screw in the bottom here has to come out. I think there's brackets on either side might have to come out. I need a smaller screwdriver. Now these screws I'm doing at the moment are actually dyed red. They're like an anodized aluminium style red. I'm thinking that might be a code that we have to take all the red screws out to be able to remove the mechanism. Is that how they work on these things? They'll be color coded for a reason, surely. So on this side as well. Now, how are we going? This little bracket can come out. It really just, I think it just stops things wobbling around. There we go. Right, so that's free. That's free. What have we got in the front? That screw's not coloured red though. And we can't get to it until we move something. I think we've got to slide this carriage back. Now the cassette does that. How? The cassette does that by pushing on a lever somewhere, I think. There we go. That's freed it up. And that allows us to get to that screw. So even though that's not a coloured screw, I think we need to take that one out. Now there's another big one down through there. Alright, we're getting there. One big one at the back. Now there's another red one down there. I think the red one takes disassembly off at the front. I think there's another screw just down through here. Oh, that one's not painted red. Maybe the colour doesn't matter. So that's freed that part up. So that's our cassette loading mechanism. Now we get a really good view at the main mechanism here. And I think we've just about got that free. Though it's lifting the bottom board with it, and we don't want to do that. We need to separate the two. Unless it's screwed in from underneath, perhaps. There's a panel on the bottom. Perhaps we'll take the panel off. There is one screw through there. Don't know what that holds, but they do have an access hole for it. There's another one through there. So maybe we don't need to take the panel off, but we can access a couple of screws through here. Alright, I might put these panel screws back in. How are we going now? Well, we're certainly free, but it's lifting the board as well. And I kind of didn't want to do that. I think we'll take that bottom panel off. Again. Ah, it's clipped on the sides as well. That's better. All right. Now, well, that didn't help us. There's no extra screws there. But I can see another one through here now. Another two. I think we'll have to work with it upright to do these. All right. Now we're going. Right. That's got it free. So that was probably a little more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Now we need to unplug some cables. So we've got some wiring here. That's a light sensor to tell the machine when it's finished rewinding or fast forwarding. This is the audio head, I think. We have some sort of sensor switch down here. And this ribbon cable. What else have we got? There's another one underneath there which goes to the head. This cable's in the road, we might lift that out of the circuit board. And there's a couple of cables into the backboard here. And one more down here. We should be free. There we go. Good chance to have a look at the belts and everything. Feels okay. I probably shouldn't turn it because it might muck up the timing with the mode switch, which is here. There's the mode switch. So this section is geared with all it's timed with all these gears. There's 3 contacts here, or 4 contacts, and they line up with contacts on the board down here. Okay, back to this job this morning. Apologies if I was a bit out of shot with some of the filming yesterday. I was concentrating so much on how to get it apart that I didn't really focus on the camera. So we discovered the mode switch here, which is a rotary switch, and it basically tells the brain of the VCR where all the particular mechanical bits are up to, and you know, it just allows it to know if it's in play mode or eject mode or fast forward or everything like that. So we have the 4 contacts here which match up with the 4 contacts on the board, and they will need a clean. There's some pretty messy looking grease around here, but it looks okay. Nothing seems to have got where it shouldn't, but we will clean those contacts up. We need to pop this mode switch open and clean the contacts inside. So there's one screw there that should take that assembly off. We have to be very careful to make sure it's timed when it goes back together. Usually there are some sort of timing marks. Looks like there's a little circle there on that tooth. So I'm not sure what that has to line up with. If I take it off and not move anything and put it back together the same way, we should be fine. Actually, there's an arrow there. So maybe we can turn it around until that arrow lines up with something and see if other things line up. Anyway, you do have to be careful about that. If you put it back together when it's not, you know, it's not timed properly, obviously the machine's going to be totally confused. So that's what we're up to. We'll pull this switch out next and give it a good clean. So let's just remove this switch. I'm not going to turn any gears or anything while it's off, and there might be an official service manual procedure for doing this, but I don't have a service manual. Okay, that's very easy to remove. There's a chance we're going to muck up things though by pulling that apart, so we might have to try and get it into a timed position, or maybe just I'll make a note where that arrow points to. That's probably the easiest way. I'll put a little, actually there's a slight scratch there, so I reckon I could put a texture dot there as well, or even I could line up a couple of texture dots over the other side, but it's important it goes back together the same way. Now the next question is how to get it apart. They sometimes have little plastic clips, so I'm trying to work out how this comes apart. I'm sure the last mode switch I did just had 3 clips on the housing and the whole thing opened up. The housing here appears to be one solid piece, so the only way I can see of getting that top disc off, and I can see through the translucent plastic that there's contacts under there, is to pop this cog off the back, but it looks like it's been melted. So has it been pressed together? Maybe it goes on a D so that it's timed, and then the top's just flared over and melted with a soldering iron. Would they do that? It seems like it makes it very difficult to service, because I'd have to carve that off or remelt it, and then to hold it back on I'd have to melt it again. Surely that has a limited number of times you can do that, and for something like a mode switch that needs cleaning fairly often, doesn't seem right. So I can't see any other option. I'll try and get some screwdrivers under the end of this gear and see if it will kind of flex off. The plastic on the top seems fairly flexible, so it might spring past it maybe. But you can see the whole thing spins as one, and I have put a little dot on the casing here to line it up. So I've poked and prodded that a little bit with a screwdriver, and the flare part around the edge I've kind of folded up. I didn't want to cut off too much material, but it does look like it's got a flat side on the shaft, so hopefully we can just lever that little gear off there without causing any damage. Ah yes, it's just going to lift straight off now. So interesting, I guess I'll have to touch it with the soldering iron to make sure it doesn't come off when we reassemble. So it has got a flat side, so there's no doubt about which way that goes. And now we can let the disc come out the other side. There's our 4 contacts, and there's our complicated electrical path that looks quite oxidized in places, so a good clean up there hopefully will fix our problems. So to give this a clean up, I'm using Dioxit D5, which removes oxidization, improves connections, and seals and protects surfaces according to the tin. It also does have a bit of a lubricant in it, so it will help keep things running smoothly. So we'll give it a really good drink of that, and we'll use a cotton bud or a Q-tip. Yes, it's taken the yellow oxidization straight off. So we'll give that a good work around to make sure it's nice and clean. So that looks substantially better. It has got quite a few lines on it, so maybe it's quite worn. This VCR may have done a lot of work in its time. Now look at these contacts where it contacts the board. Let's see if they'll clean the oxidization up with the Dioxit. And you can see, look at that, rubbing all the oxidization off there. So we'll continue to clean all these terminals up. We'll also do the ones on the board where it touches. And we've got to do these little fingers too, and then we can reassemble it. There we go. Was it dirty or was it dirty? And these little spring fingers are quite clean now. I will just flex them up a little bit, just so they've got a little bit more tension on the tracks that they connect with. And now we don't need to dry anything off, because we want to leave a little bit of lubrication in there so we can reassemble. and push our little gear back on, making sure it goes the right way. There we go. Now I think I will just touch that with a soldering iron just to flare it a little bit, because this mounts, I think this mounts that way when the machine's sitting in normal position, and we don't want that gear to work its way off. It needs to be held on there. All right, I'll go and do that, and then we can put it all back together. So the machine's all back together, and I'm pleased to report there's no screws left over. I didn't actually have to go back and look at the footage, but sometimes you have to see where certain screws go. Important when you put the front cover back on most of these VCRs, I had to hold the actual door up, because if you don't, then it doesn't engage with the little opening mechanism, and you put a tape in later and the tape can't come out because the door won't lift up. I've had that problem before, so that should be right to go now. I'm going to loosely sit the lid on top just so that we don't muck up any of the light sensors, and we'll fire it up and see if it takes a cassette and see if it will play. Alright, got the mains cord plugged in, let's give it some power. Let's see if it will take the cassette. Very good. No different. So here's where we're at. The tape will go in and go down, and then the motor doesn't spin up or anything, and it kicks it out again, which is what it was doing at the start. So there must be another sensor switch somewhere that isn't operating correctly to tell the machine that the cassette's ready to go. Sometimes it seems to go a bit crooked. There you go, it goes down, but nothing spins up. I can even operate it via the sensor. Put my finger in. There's a light sensor between this side and the middle that when the tape goes in far enough, it pulls it in, like that. So that's working fine. But when the tape is all the way home, it's not triggering the motor to start up and these mechanisms to pull the tape up around the head. I'm going to have to look for another sensor switch that's playing up. Okay, I've pulled the carriage out again, and I found a little sensor switch here which, when the cassette drops down, should connect. So there's just a little couple of metal fingers that flex against a strip. So I got some deoxide in there and cleaned it up, and yes, that was a little bit dirty, but that seems to be likely to be the switch that when the cassette drops down it connects, and it should start up the motors and have the head spinning. All I can do is try it again and see what happens. Right, I have a couple of screws holding this in. Let's see what happens this time. Nothing, it won't even go down. Okay, so the tape won't go in without the lid on because the light from my ring light here is quite bright and it's mucking up the light sensor. If I block the sensor off with a cotton bud, it goes in, but it comes out again. So that switch obviously is okay, or it's not connecting properly, but I can't get any more out of it other than tape going in and kicking out again. So I think I'm going to have to pull the whole mechanism out again and just study all the little sensor switches. It has to be one of them because there's nothing connecting to turn on the motor, get the head spinning and move the tape up around the head. It has to be triggered by a sensor switch somewhere. I just got to find it. I do believe I'm wasting a lot of time on this VCR. My stubbornness is creeping in and I need to try and find out what's going on. I've pulled all the mechanism mag out again. I looked for sensor switches, couldn't find anything that could possibly be causing it. The one I thought at the front might be doing it. I'm pretty sure that's actually a record safe switch, as in stopping you recording over a tape that is not supposed to be recorded over, because that little lever there, the white lever, goes into a notch on the tape. So I think that's what that switch is for, but I cleaned it up and tested it. It works fine. Now, for the first time, it stayed in. I've been putting it in and out and in and out, trying to nut out what linkages go where and if there can be possibly in any other switch anywhere. And it stayed in once, and then it gives me an F6 code. So I'm going to Google that fault code, see if it can tell me anything. But I can't get anything else to happen except the cassette go in and then kicks out again. It doesn't start the head. It did once, but I don't know why. But the arms don't bring the tape up around the head or anything. So there's got to be some sensor switch, but I just cannot see anything on the board or on the mech itself. I've looked for bad solder joints in places, but I'm at a bit of a loss. But I am going to Google now the F6 code and see what happens. Will it eject? I think that's this one. No, it's frozen. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's the first time that's happened. The head's spinning. But then it kicks the tape out again. Okay, this is weird. Okay guys, at this stage the VCR has won the battle but not the war. I hope to beat it eventually. I've packed it all up, I've put it all back together properly. I've got a couple of stickers on the top just explaining a few notes about what I've done. And I'll obviously look back at this video sometime in the future, but at this stage the problem is for future Chris, who learns a bit more about VCRs, or maybe some of you guys that know a bit about it might offer some suggestions. I did have a quick search for the F6 code and it referred to the mode switch, which I'm pretty sure I've got right now. Also possibly some mechanical damage. And I didn't really look that closely at all the gears, and there might be a broken tooth, there might be a little spring broken off or something. I didn't feel like pulling it all apart again. I don't have that much time at the moment. And the other thing it said was possibly the unloading motor, or one of the motors might actually be faulty, or it could be a dry solder joint on where the motor solders to the board or something. Oh look, I've had enough of looking for now. I thought I might as well get a video up. At least you've learned how to clean the mode switch, and you know, you may never have seen in a VCR before, so you may have just enjoyed the view. Thanks for watching guys. If you've got any assistance, put it in the comments down below, but at this stage we'll call this, even though I won't put it in the title, we'll call this part 1 of a Panasonic VCR repair. Catch you in the next video. Bye for now.